Welcome to the space between. How we spend our working hours has massively changed in the last few years. Consistency, clarity, purpose, risk, and forward thinking are common themes around work and career. How we serve in our work lives is front and center in this new energy. Matthew Anderson is a realtor and owner of Matthew Anderson Properties. His path to entrepreneur was paved through relationships and hustle. He understands what it takes to go after your dreams and take the steps necessary to turn those dreams into reality. Join us as we connect through conversation. Welcome to the space between. My name is Alyson, and I am so glad that you're joining us for an episode of the Space Between podcast. And today, we are going to be talking about career as our theme with Matt Anderson. Matt, welcome to the Space Between.
Thank you so much. It was worth the plane ride up here.
Yes, we have another guest that has hopped on a plane to come and join all of us at the Space Between. Matt, thank you so much for doing that, and we appreciate you being here.
Yep, she didn't give me first class, but it's fine. I'll sit in the back with everybody else.
That's when the show gets bigger.
Yeah.
Don't forget to like and subscribe and share.
Right. Or donate so I can sit first class next time.
That's amazing. So the space between, and we always like to kind of start, is really this funky, weird, interesting time that we're in of great transformation and great change. And we are recording this in the middle of July. This won't launch into the fall, but there is a lot going on in the collective, to say the least.
I was going to say, putting it mildly.
Right. And the space between, I believe, is a time where we need to reconnect with ourselves, with one another. We've never been so disconnected.
Mm-hmm.
And I really do believe that this podcast can spark a conversation, either with yourself or with something else or someone else in your life. And that's why we have the themes and the things that are important. And today we're going to talk about career.
I'm excited for that.
I am too. And we're going to get into how we met and all of the things. But Matt, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us who you are. And yeah, we'll start there.
Yeah, so my name is Matt Anderson. Grew up in Jersey and I moved down to Florida a few years back. And I work in real estate full time. I recently launched my own business, Matthew Anderson Properties. And that's where I'm at.
Yeah. And we met through work. It's funny. I think some people know that I have this whole other life.
Yeah.
Some people don't. But my husband and I own a mortgage company together, and we have real estate consultancy and things that we do. And Matt and I met, I guess maybe almost 2 years ago now.
Oh, yeah.
A year and a half.
Not long. Yeah, I think it's been almost 2 years.
Yeah. And we met when I came down in a trip to Orlando, and we got to introduce ourselves to you. And it was just a very professional capacity.
Yeah.
And there was something that I saw in you that I don't necessarily see in a lot of people. And I think it was your realness. You're so incredibly real. You're so incredibly authentic. And you don't mince words. You are who you are, and you put it all out there. And I have so much appreciation. I'm that way too. So
Yeah.
we tend to find our own.
For the good and the worse. Yeah.
Right.
I just think that I grew up that way too. Like there was no BS. Like it is what it is, and you like it or you don't. But I'd rather just put my full self out there.
Yeah.
And if you like it, you like it, and if you don't, I mean, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to tell you.
Right. And I think in the space between and in this time that we're in, authenticity and being real has never been more important.
Oh yeah, because people see through it.
It is. There's an interesting veil, I believe, spiritually, energetically, physically, that's being lifted. And there's been a lot of bullshit. There's been a lot of things that are hidden under the surface, and there's no more hiding.
No.
And so being who you are and saying your truth and how you feel about the world and the way you view the world has never been more important. And that is something I have so much respect for you in who you are. And I would love to even get into, and we'll get into it, kind of your early beginnings and what shaped you. Because work is just one part. We obviously want to understand who Matt is as well.
Yeah.
But it is something where my parents are very much no bullshit.
Yeah.
And maybe there is more of a learned component than we think, right?
Yeah. And I think growing up too, I think part of it part of like the no bullshit for me was also coming out and being gay and, navigating that part of my life and people that everyone's going to have something to say always.
Absolutely.
But I think when I got so comfortable in myself, but I used to be like a closeted fat little boy. So I'm like, imagine going from that and then losing some weight, coming out as gay, getting comfortable, and just being unapologetically me, as many as, people will say that all the time. But I think that's what really helped me at the same time because I was like,
Yeah.
look, this was my upbringing. I've hid these things for so long that I'm not doing it anymore, and I'm not going to apologize for it because I've wasted too many years trying to fit these molds of what people think you should be,
Oh,
what's acceptable. Being in a high school with 200 kids, like a private Catholic school. And even grammar school is the same way. Super religious parents, grandparents. So I was like, I don't have fucking time for it.
yeah. And you broke out of the mold.
Yeah.
Right. And I think there's a lot, and this is something we'll definitely talk about in a future episode, generational, trauma and breaking generational things that happen in our family. There's no time for that. There's no energy for that. We have a lot of shit to do on this planet. We have a lot of things that we have to fix.
Literally.
There's a lot broken right now. And I think you can only do that when you are your most authentic self. You came back here to be this person.
Yeah.
And I know as I get older, I'm linking more into that woman as every year passes, and it's a beautiful thing. And I ultimately think that what we choose to do with the vast majority of our time, which is our career, right?
Yeah.
That is something that has to also be an authentic part of us, and we're going to talk about that too. So the way that we start, kind of diving into the theme is we're going to read a definition of career, and then I'd like your opinion on this.
Okay.
So we read from the Oxford Dictionary, which is the oldest dictionary in the world. It's on purpose, right? Because things have come very far very quickly, especially over the last few years. So the definition of career is the series of jobs that a person has in a particular area of work, usually involving more responsibility as time passes. Which I was like, okay, I guess I could see that being true. Like climb the career ladder.
Right. Be at the top.
Right. Like there's some big ascendant. It's just this, right?
Yeah.
Not like this, right?
Yeah.
Keep going up and get more responsibility. It's like,
to me, that just sounds very white heterosexual male. Like that's
it's very patriarchal.
right.
What we're trying to move away from.
Right. Like that's immediately what I think of. I'm like,
Totally.
it's not.
You're like, is it?
Because my thought would be your career should be as you get farther in your career and get more advanced, whatever, things should get easier, not more responsibility.
Absolutely.
You should be able to take a seat back or a step back rather. And I'm like, yeah.
You're like, that sounds exhausting.
Right.
And it is. We're not saying life isn't exhausting. We understand and we live in the world. But I thought the same thing. I said, the more responsibility, I think it depends on how much risk you're willing to take with your career. And my path was I went to college, right? There was kind of no question that I was going to go to college. I think now, it's very different. I think a lot of younger people are being like, am I going to buy into this?
Oh, right.
Right. And again, all of our institutions and crumbling and the transformation, people are really sitting there going like, wait, is this something I want to do?
Right.
$100,000 out of school in debt. It's just totally out of control. Right. But I did the college thing.
Right.
And so did you. And it was what it was. And when I came out of school, all I knew was that I had to pay my student loans.
Right.
And I was so scared.
Yep.
Because nobody was going to pay them for me.
Yeah.
And I think you got if I remember correctly, it was 6 months.
Yeah.
Then the bills came.
A free pass. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a break. And I thought, oh my God, I have to go make money. So I got into the healthcare business.
Right.
I was a pharmaceutical sales rep. I worked in that I did training and some marketing stuff for probably about 8 years. My heart was never in it. Now, was it the right path for me? Did I learn amazing lessons? For sure.
To get you to where you are, yes.
100%. So I'm never going to say oh, I wish. I'm not that kind of person. But how did you start out, right? We don't even need to go back to college. It's like, okay, fine. We went to college. What kind of happened after that?
Well, so brief background, it was undergrad because I felt like I had to go.
Right.
Then it was time in between. I also thought okay, the only realistic thing after undergrad was grad school. So, but in between that, I was like, I need to go do something else. So went to Thailand for a bit to teach English. Love that. And then I literally went right into grad school. I was fortunate that I had a scholarship. So yes, I had my student loans from undergrad, but because I got a scholarship in for grad school, I was like, okay, this makes sense. Like,
Right,
there's
it
not,
evened it out a little.
yeah,
Like,
because
I'm
I'm
gonna
like,
get more education, not have to pay.
right,
Bravo, good decision.
divide the two,
Good
right.
decision.
But yeah, so as I was going through the motions, I was going to get a PhD in criminology, ended up getting my master's, and that's when COVID hit. And I was like, you know what? Like, my grandmom ended up passing away, a bunch of family members passed away, and I'm like, it's not making sense to me.
Interesting.
So I went back to Jersey for like to stay during COVID, stayed with my family. I'm like, I don't want to go back. Like, I don't want to go back to school.
Yeah. You knew
Yeah, I
at
knew.
that point. It was just this inherent. That's an important piece of this. If we can just pause real quick, is those nudges and those intuitive times when you have to listen to what your soul is saying. It's like, no.
Yeah, and I struggled for the longest time because I was like, when am I going to get those signs of what I should be doing? Like, I felt when it came to school, like it was not forced upon me, but it was just the natural progression.
Right.
But there was nothing like, wow, you're really good at this. The only thing that I knew I was really good at was serving. And I served to put myself all through
Right.
undergrad, grad school, summer.
Same.
Loved it. I love serving.
Is that not the best education you actually got?
Absolute best. Multitasking, time management, people skills, overcoming obstacles.
Try serving food to people that are starving and cranky.
Yeah, right. That have been waiting.
Everyone should have to do it.
Right. In the heat.
Right.
Waiting 45 minutes to an hour. Yeah, pissed off because their kid won't stop crying. Like that.
Thing under the sun.
Right, but I still loved it.
Yeah.
And after that, it was literally serving a table of realtors that ended up pivoting me to real estate.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then that aha moment kind of happened, but that was kind of how things graduated for me into where I am now.
That's amazing. And you're reminding me to walk my story back. The reason I got into pharmaceutical sales was because I was working at like a high-end steakhouse in Tampa. I was killing it. I was making a ton of tips. It was a good economy. Thank God.
Yeah.
And I worked those parties where they would invite doctors, and it was I have many thoughts about that. I'll leave that to myself. But that was what I did, and I just was a hustler. I feel like you and I had that in common. I remember I printed out business cards, and I put my name, my phone number, and my email. And I was like, I'm looking for a job. If you know anybody that's hiring, let me know. That's how I got into
I didn't know serving got you into pharmaceuticals.
I said,
interesting.
I got a free car, Cadillac, health insurance. I was like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And that's what started it. I was working at a steakhouse.
See?
And it opened up the door. And, listen, I would say the biggest thing about career is all in who you know and the network that you build.
1,000,000%. All the people that I think are super successful is because the people either they surrounded themselves with or were put in front of or got in front of. Yeah, right.
Exactly.
That's not.
I think with you and I, it's more
I was going to say, no one put anyone anywhere.
No one was ushering us in front of.
Like,
by the way, that's okay. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just not our story.
No.
Right. It's
sometimes you have to break down a few more walls and curse a few more people out. But
absolutely. You have to break your own doors down.
Right.
I feel like you and I definitely have that in common.
Yeah, well.
So, we have these kind of introductory young experiences. And I knew pretty quickly that career wasn't for me, but I stayed in it because of fear. And I think fear is the narrative that is ubiquitous in our society today. It is all you hear about. But I just remember being so afraid that if I even started thinking about what it was I really wanted to do or what are my talents, like you said, right? You knew that you had certain skills and you knew you had certain things that you wanted to hone in on. I didn't have a chance to think about that. Right. And I think I stayed in that for, I think, 8 years. That's a long time to do something that you don't like.
Mm-hmm.
And I left that career because my morals and value system no longer lined up with it. I ended up selling an opioid. They put an opioid in my bag and I was gone a month later. And the way that whole thing happened was so universal and so It's one of those things where
Yeah.
this dimension just can't explain it. I remember I went into an appointment and I saw a very sad situation in what I didn't even know was like an opioid pain clinic. And I went into my car and I cried and I said, I have to get out of this. And a month later, they cut 50% of the sales force. I was top 10% and I still got cut. And I remember my boss was like, oh, we need to call HR and this is wrong. And I'm like, no, I'm done.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so incredibly grateful, so incredibly scared. And that's when we moved to New York.
Oh.
1 month we were gone.
See, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah. And Oliver had a thriving mortgage business. We moved in 2010. So the 2008 debacle had happened.
That wasn't too far behind you.
It wasn't. And that's why we moved to New York. So I think the thing that I always think about with my career or my path with work is those risks that I took and the nudges that I just couldn't ignore anymore.
Well, that was almost not similar completely, but after when COVID hit and I was home, I didn't obviously want to stay with my parents the whole time. So it was like,
because you'd been out of the house for a long time.
Right. So it's really
hard to go home. Trust me. I get
Listen,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
I went and lived in Philly for a bit and I was like, I effing hate it here. I was like, this sucks.
Yeah.
There's nowhere for my dog, whatever. And my friend Sam and I were on the phone and I was like, let's just move to Orlando. Because I knew a couple people. I have grandparents that do Smyrna Beach. And I'm like, let's just go. Like, what's stopping us?
Right.
So literally we were on the phone and within 2 months we had apartments down the street from each other. And I was like,
beautiful. And you were there.
Yeah, screw it. Let's go.
So I would assume you got a serving job.
Yeah.
Right?
Served at Universal.
Amazing.
Was serving. Well, I got licensed in Jersey briefly, then we decided to move. So that was a waste of time.
Right.
But, it still made it past the Florida exam a lot.
Right. I was going to say, like, Jersey's probably a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, when I moved down there, so I went back to my roots, and which was serving. So I got a job at Universal. I was serving every night, but I knew I didn't want to be a career server.
Yeah.
Even though it was something I was good at, it just didn't make sense long term.
No, it's too physical. It's hard to do.
But people can do it.
I know people that have done it and they've been very successful with it, but it's a physical grind and it's an emotional grind.
Yeah. So, I mean, not that real estate isn't, but
or mortgages.
Right.
Or podcasting.
Right. But so it was serving at night and trying to build my business in real estate during the day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like flipping a switch and I'm like, listen, we're out.
Yeah.
We're going.
And I think that's an important point to pause. I had my mom on last season to talk about purpose. And there is a narrative that exists in the collective that drives me crazy. It's you should put all your efforts into your passion and you should quit your job and you should do these things. You know what, guys? It doesn't work like that.
Right. Right.
It doesn't
Is your
work
passion
like
going to pay the bills?
No.
Because at least not at first, it's not.
No. And there's a world and a case to be made that maybe it won't ever fully financially support you.
Yeah.
And my mom's advice, my mom's in her 70s and she's had a career and then she had her passion and she's a mom. She kind of did all the things. And she said, as long as you're working towards your passion and putting some sort of effort in, that's all that matters when it comes to your passion. Now, if you can turn that into your full-time gig and be paid for it and be paid well, that's amazing. And I know that's one of the goals that I have with my life. I own a couple businesses now. I'm super passionate about this. I started a consulting business, which I'm really happy about. But you were able to take a career that you were good in, a career that you were making money, and then launch your real estate career, which you shine in. Yeah. I mean, you were meant to do this. Like you can just see it in your content. And obviously I know you personally and professionally. It's like, we've been doing this long enough that we know who has it and you have it. So how did you end up finally, because it hasn't been that long that you've been doing this full time. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I think it's so important because for years I was like, when am I going to have that moment or that thing that I'm naturally good at? Because I was like, is serving the only thing that it's going to naturally I'm going to gravitate to.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm like 25, going to be 26. And I'm like, everyone has like their thing. I was like, what's my thing?
Right.
And then it happens and I didn't intend for it to happen. I'm like, let's just see if I can make real estate work. And then falling in love with the idea of it and helping people, as cliche as that sounds, but that's what I wanted, mentoring other agents. So yeah, it started with me being on a team. My team definitely, and the people on the team really helped me, come into my own and grow my business, and my business partners like you and, some other lenders and things like that. That just really helped me be a well-rounded realtor. But I thought to myself, I was like, why I'm giving my money away to a team for like resources that I'm not utilizing anymore.
Right.
And it just wasn't making sense to me
And it made sense
at the time.
until it doesn't.
Right.
And that's another nudge.
Yeah.
Right? Is it time for me to do this on my own? Is it time for me to leave? And I'll talk about in a minute, leaving corporate America.
Yeah.
Right? That was really difficult.
Yeah.
But the more you trust yourself,
Yeah.
the quicker you can make those decisions. And it's scary. I'm not trying to say it's not scary, but you must have had a certain amount of trust to be able to really say, it's time.
Yeah, well, I think part of it was I felt like I wanted to branch off on my own a few times. Like there's multiple times where I was like, okay, I want to go. But I knew that I needed to make sure completely and wholeheartedly I was financially stable. But like full transparency, it was also getting fed up with the bullshit.
Yep.
Like it was just things going on that I didn't want to be a part of. And I'm like, I want something that's mine.
Right.
So it was just worth that jump to me, because I was like, even if I'm making less money, I know it's me, it's my brand, it's everything that I'm putting out there, and I'm not giving it away to someone else.
Right.
So yeah.
And you're building something for you that is you, that represents you.
Yeah.
Right. So I think a lot of people that listen to this podcast are entrepreneurs, or they have a side hustle that they're building. When you put your name and soul into something, that's a piece of you that goes out into the world. Right. And it's just different. I don't know how else to explain it. You could help someone else build businesses, which I've done in my career. I had a very successful software career when I moved to New York.
Yeah.
Right. I made a lot of people a lot of money.
Yeah.
And those people are still my friends and my mentors, and I love them dearly. But at a certain point, I was like, I want this to be mine. I'm ready to have something that is mine. And I think that's an interesting pivot. I have an episode, I think it's episode 6 of season 1 with my friend Christina Lopez-Aducci. She is the same thing. She has a badass brand, a product. She's in the cannabis accessories, now cannabis industry. Was very much ahead of her time. And she just knew.
Yeah.
Like there is, and to your point, I think I watched you go through that process, right? There's never the perfect time.
No.
But you almost get sick of thinking about it. You're just like, okay, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, let's just see what happens.
Like it is what it is.
Yeah. Because if you just don't let it fester.
Yeah.
Like if you keep thinking about this and it's just going to fester, and then you're going to come up with all of these reasons why you shouldn't do it.
Yeah.
So just do it.
Just do it.
Like,
just do it.
And if it doesn't work, and we're not sponsored by Nike, but if it doesn't work, then like screw it.
Just
do it. Little check mark.
No, I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, thinking back, and I love these conversations so much, and they always go exactly where they're supposed to go. But when I think back to, I was working in software, that was maybe I have like this weird 7 to 8 year run. Now that I'm thinking about it, it's like I have these career pivots that last. I mean, it's kind of a long.
Software is 8 years too.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I was in it for a long time, and I was very successful at that. And I enjoyed kind of the pieces of selling something, because I'm a salesperson. You're a salesperson, right? Ultimately, that's what we are by nature, and by career. I mean, we've had careers in sales. I remember feeling really like excited to work with people that work in software are a different level of intelligence, right?
Yeah.
It was a mental test for me to be able to sit with a CTO, right, in a conversation.
Be on that level.
To be on that level, because there also is, and we should talk about this, imposter syndrome that exists.
Oh, yeah.
Right. Where it's like, I have no business being in this room. But newsflash, nobody knows what they're doing.
Right.
Nobody knows what they're doing in their career and in their workplace. Everyone's trying to figure it out. No matter what level you're on, I use that term loosely, but no matter what level you're on, there's a certain amount of how the hell did I even get here?
Yeah.
And I'm sure the day that you turned on your website,
Oh,
the day that I remember sitting in the first meeting with my husband,
yeah.
I will never forget the first time I had to get into a meeting with him. I'm like, this is the weirdest shit ever. What are we doing? This
Right.
is crazy. Like, why? You look back on that now and you're like, wow, that feels like a
Ages
long
ago,
time
yeah.
ago.
Literally.
Yeah. And it feels like a different version of you. I think a big part of, the career and the work path that you take, there are different versions of you that come out of that.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing for people too. Like,
Yeah.
there was something that I think it was Tyler Perry that said, or was it Oprah? I think it was either way, we're in great company. But that basically saying that some people come into your life for a season, a lifetime.
A reason.
Yeah, like things like
Yeah.
that. And I think careers can be the same exact way because, like, I would assume you don't regret the different industries that you were in because that's obviously shaped where you are now.
Right.
The same thing with where I am with grad school and all of that stuff. That's what shaped me
Right.
to be where I am.
Absolutely.
So even though it was a couple years, and even my mom will say, "You're not going to use anything in your degree with criminology," and I'm like, "No," but doing what I did helped me get to this seat. So
Yeah.
it needed to happen that way.
There's no sense in looking back. And I
Well,
think there's a lot of sort of this, how do you say, this spiritual push
yeah,
to live in the present moment, right? Because the past has influenced where you sit today. We have absolutely no idea what's going to happen
no,
in the future. And as long as we trust that we have the skills and we have the mentality and we have the energy, both energetically and physically, to manage our lives, we're going to be fine. But we are in some wild times, my friend,
yeah,
especially so let's fast forward to today, right? I own a mortgage company. You own a real estate business. We are in wild times.
isn't that the best part about it though?
It is and it isn't. I've had many nights where I thought, oh my God, this whole thing is going to crumble, especially last year. I just remember
Yeah.
thinking like rates were moving so fast and, people were just sitting on 2 and 3% interest rates. Nobody wanted to go anywhere. I remember thinking like, is this over?
Yeah.
Because you
That's
get caught in that fear narrative.
and that's that emotional roller coaster.
Yes.
Like, and everyone thinks in our industries that, or at least in real estate, you're making these quick bucks. And it's like, I don't think people understand that no matter what career path you're in, there's that emotional toll
Yes.
that it takes on you.
Absolutely. And there is no quick anything.
No,
When you're talking about your career, when you're talking about your business, it doesn't exist,
no.
right? Everything takes time and having patience. And I think that that's super, super important. The other thing that I kind of want to talk about is between purpose and career, right? So you mentioned a couple things that I want to kind of circle back to. So you mentioned like I don't know how you put it, but these were the talents that I had. These were I don't know how else you would explain it. This is what I was good at, right? These were
Yeah.
my strengths.
Came naturally.
Thank you. That's the perfect way to say it. How were you able to take those natural abilities? Because some people are good with people. Some people are great with numbers. Not me, right? You have these kind of natural inclinations. How were you able to utilize your natural talents as you move throughout the progression of your career? Or maximize on them, however you want to answer the question.
That's a really good question. Um, Being able to maximize them, it was almost kind of like trial and error, I would say.
I understand what you mean.
Because, at first getting into real estate, it was all about like sales, sales, sales. But I'm naturally a social people person.
Yeah.
And I always want to be that person that can help. And I also have that background a bit in education.
Right.
So I
This
think,
is a lot of education, what we do.
right.
It's mostly education and
Right, than
relationships.
anything else. And that's what I think deviates from some of our past careers, that
Yes.
it's not just sales. I think it's sales and education.
We're consultative.
Yeah.
We're consultative.
Yeah.
Like that's ultimately what we do.
Yeah. But back to the whole point, it's like I knew I was good at these things, and even being on my team, there was people that naturally had questions and new agents and
Right.
people trying to really find their own. And I think me going through that myself made it very clear, like, okay, you're going through what I went through.
Right. And you could connect to that. And
Right.
you wanted to help.
Right.
There's a very service-oriented component to you, and I
Yeah.
have that as well. And from a spiritual perspective, we're moving into a more service-oriented energy, right? We're moving into this Aquarian age where it's all about we and the collective.
Yeah, what can I do for you?
Right. And how do we do this together? How do we, it's not just I'm going to look out for myself and you're going to look out for you and hopefully we all survive. It's now let's link arms, let's link hearts, let's link minds, and let's try to figure this shit out together because we're certainly not doing it individually. This has not worked.
No.
Right. And there's such a service oriented. That's another piece. I love the way you said that, too, because it is trial and error. But the thing I will say, and the reason I'm bringing this up is because there's a narrative that exists that you should just go out and start a YouTube page and drop ship shit from Alibaba, which is all these people are doing on TikTok. Like, cool. That's not for everyone.
No.
Right. And it's like, oh, I'm going to make a quick buck or,
Well, it
I'm
doesn't
going to
work that way.
No, life doesn't work like that. And I think
don't get me wrong. Some people it could.
Sure. But it's
A very small,
few and far between.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I'm bringing this up is utilizing your gifts, utilizing what lights you up, utilizing what you're good at and what really makes you shine.
Yeah.
And doing that in a way, maybe it is working for somebody else.
Yeah.
Maybe it is starting your own business. Maybe it is doing whatever, insert, it could be artist or whatever it might be. Finding those two pieces of what lights you up and what you're good at is the intersection where you will shine and where you will ultimately be successful. Right. Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. It's not, and you never know when those things are going to happen.
Right.
And I think that's the key too of like, don't try to push when it should happen. And people will say it like, just because someone else achieved X within 3 years doesn't mean that that's going to be the same way that you go and do that as well. You see someone's married with kids by the time they're 30. That doesn't mean that that's your path. Like there's not a set timeline to accomplish X, Y, and Z. And I'm guilty of it myself of saying, I need to do X, Y, and Z because this person did it. But it took them.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Now you just opened up Pandora's box about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah, well.
But I appreciate you saying that because that is your timeline, your energy, your life path, your journey, your career, who you are as a person, who you're going to be. All of those things, that's on your timeline.
Yeah.
And so much of the frustration I feel within my personal life, my professional life, being a business person is because I have and we have way too much access to what everybody else is doing.
Yep. Well, and this is probably going to take us back to another topic completely, but I wanted to touch on it. When it comes to careers in general with like a newer generation, I guess, and what's the generation after me, before me? Am I X? No, I'm not X.
No, I'm X. You're Z.
Am I Z? Regardless.
Or maybe it's Z.
Listen.
We'll figure it out and put it in.
And I was going to say, I'm 29 and I won't ask Alice. She's like 32. But if you know what our, I guess our thing.
Generation.
Yeah, generation is, if you can put it in the comments.
That would be great.
Please, that would be fantastic. So
help us out.
Right. But what I was getting at is,
we'll say under 25, like 20,
so
25
people under 25, I think it's easier for them to potentially not go to college and pivot because there's so much more access to do other things. Like there's so many people that are on TikTok making money off of that. Like there's a lot more access and social media platforms and innovative ways that you can make money that doesn't involve going to college.
Right.
So I think that's why we're also seeing that shift where college isn't necessarily the next step for everybody.
Right.
Because I'd probably argue, I don't know the stats on this, that as time's going on, less people are probably
that's definitely
going to college.
Yeah, that's true. And I think that will continue to happen because the standard of education has shifted, right? Clearly, our country doesn't care about history.
No.
Right? So why would you go to... And I think there's a piece for that, too. But there also is... And I'm going to put what we were talking about at lunch, Scott Galloway's TED Talk, Professor Scott Galloway from NYU. He's talking about the generation that's anxious and the generation that is just like so blown up with this idea that life is easy and you could just get on video and do something like this and make $5 million a year.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist, right? There are people that will do that and they'll make money.
Right.
But what's wrong with taking over a family business that's been around for 50 years? Or what's wrong with having a mentor who's 20 years older than you in the real estate business and being like, 20 years from now, I want to take over this person's book of business, right?
Yeah.
There's so many things that you can do in your life out there. But at the same time, this whole narrative of like, you can be anything and do anything you want, it is total bullshit. And that's what the TED Talk, that's kind of how he, wraps it all up, which is like, you actually can. Find out what you're good at and find out what lights you up and figure out what that is.
And how to mesh the two together.
And try to do something every day if you can, even if it's 10 minutes. And march towards that.
Yeah.
And then make sure you're financially supporting yourself.
Right.
Don't be stupid.
Well, yeah, because the whole American dream nonsense doesn't, like, you're not set up for success that way.
No.
You're not.
Not anymore.
No. And maybe years and years ago, like when my grandma was a kid, that was a thing, and you could go and
you could go to college, get a job,
right,
climb the corporate ladder, do well, have a home, move to Florida, and leave your kids.
Yeah, and pull yourself up by your bootstraps and all that. Great. But it's just not realistic anymore.
Not anymore. Why? I wonder. Well,
corporate greed.
I was just going to
Don't get me fucking started.
Why did that happen? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, once you give everybody at the top all the money.
I was going to say, I don't even know the stats on that. It was something crazy, like something about COVID, how the top like 756 people now own like at least $3 billion each. I'm like, what?
Yeah, that's what it was. It's the shift. And, knock, knock, TikTok. Like, I believe we will see that shift because there's just no way that it can keep going.
What?
With the whole, like, the top percent, right? Own and control everything.
Well, I also don't see how it's going to change if they own everything.
It will be hard to see that. And I agree with you. I don't know how, but I think we have to trust that otherwise we're done. I'm not trying to like sound, whatever, but you just can't keep going from any perspective. And I know it's scary. There's a lot of like, dystopian stories and movies that have come out and books like, just look at 1984 and like all these books that have been around. And we see some of these things happening. But I'm such a firm believer in the spiritual arc. I'm really into astrology. I have such a true faith and belief and trust that I believe that we all came back, people like you and I and all the listeners, to really help shift. And turn that pivot around, because I like to think about life as a pendulum, right? So you have a pendulum that swings. We're swung very much one way, right? It's like in the corner, like there's so much energy.
Lodged
exactly. But eventually, just like energy, it's going to swing the other way. And everything's cyclical. Look at your business, look at your family, look at your personal life. Like this is the way it goes, right? Everything's like a wave, right? And we're just in another wave. So I don't think that was a tangent at all. I think it's, mid-July of 2024. And it's hot as hell. But at the end of the day, shit is wild.
Yeah.
And we have to talk about these things. And I do think there is another component to, and this is something that with this podcast, this work, and my consultancy business, I want to be part of the shift of that. Right. And it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether you're a realtor or whether you're in college or whether you have this or you work for a company. How can you put your personal imprint and who you are as an individual into your work to make the world a better place? Let's talk about that. Right. Because I think that that's a really important piece. You're not just selling people a house.
No.
You're bringing your whole self into what it is that you do.
Yeah.
And this is the most important purchase of someone's life. Yeah. It is the most amount of money besides college, potentially.
Exactly. Student loan, girlfriend.
But that someone will ever take out.
Yeah.
And they're getting a piece of you. And you're bringing your whole self into that. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, yeah, when people are working with me, and even if I'm anything to help another individual, they're getting myself, my dogs, everything that comes with it.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only way to go about it, because especially in our industry, if people want to work with people they know, like, and trust.
100%.
And that's what I put forward. It's relationship first, educate second, transaction third. Like, that's always going to be how it goes. And a lot of people want to say they do that, but then don't actually walk the walk.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, sale done. Like,
Yeah.
no.
It's very prevalent.
Yeah.
And I think not just in our industry, but in a lot of industries, people are phoning it in. People are doing the bare minimum.
It's very transactional.
I mean, just pick up a phone and call any customer service person right now. Like,
Yeah.
I get it. I understand that time is tough and, people are treated like shit and all of the things. But if you're going to go to work and you're going to do it,
Yeah.
as long as it's not toxic, if it's toxic, get out. I don't care if it's your own company or if you're working. That's not what we're trying to say.
Yeah.
But bring yourself and bring your heart into what you're doing. It's going to make you feel better and it's going to make the world better.
And it's going to make your job easier.
Yeah. Your whole life is going to
Right.
get better when you come into that, whatever you're doing,
Yeah.
with that mindset and with that intention.
Well, it was like me in real estate. Like when I noticed, I'm like, oh, this comes so easy to me.
Right.
Like it comes so easy to, obviously there's things you need to do, like educate yourself and know about insurance, mortgages, the
Right.
real estate market, those things. But being able to talk to people about it and get them on the same page and educate them and relate to them,
Yeah.
that all just happens.
Right.
So, and if you are out there and you're basically thinking, yeah, I can't bring my full self to my job, then do what Alyson said and get out. Like, this is your sign. And I know your other thought might be, well, I can't do that right now. Maybe start thinking of options that could put you in that position.
Start putting a plan in place.
Right.
Right. And I have been there, right? I had companies that I didn't mesh with. We talked about the healthcare thing. It really wasn't for me. And I remember waking up in the morning with this just awful dread.
Yeah.
You're just like, oh my God. And if your life is feeling like Groundhog Day, only you can change it.
Yeah.
So much of our
Don't
time
wait
is
for
spent at
someone
work.
else. Yeah.
Right? Our career is a reflection of the choices and the choices we've made and not made.
Yeah.
Right? And I understand, we sit here in a place of privilege. I'm not saying that everyone can do this, but if you have the wherewithal to make these decisions for yourself, find your path, follow your guide, which is your inner voice.
Yeah.
And get out of your situation.
Yeah, but I think that, if I was someone who was, there could be, a single mom or
Right.
someone that had to get out of a bad situation with their family and someone that is living paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah.
For me, I would just try to find someone I could talk to that could potentially support me to get out of that situation.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's important to have friends. It's important to have
Right.
colleagues and partners and mentors that can help you with that in just your own personal sphere. The fear that we have ingrained in us, unfortunately, that comes from the collective unconscious is that you can't do it. It's not going to work out.
Yeah.
Why would you do that? You're stupid.
Yeah.
It starts with the talk that you have with yourself.
Right.
And just taking little small steps. It might take somebody a year, 2 years, 3 years. I mean, I was in the house. I didn't like one day of it, and I was in there for 8 years.
Again, your own timeline.
And I was young, and I had no responsibilities, and I was scared shitless. So I can only imagine, like, to your point, what another situation is. But I think an important takeaway is that there is another side, and there is hope out there, and there is other things that you can do. And maybe it's start something on the side where you can make extra money, and who knows what that turns into. So that way you don't have to worry about getting laid off, right?
Yeah.
Tough economic times right now. There is a world of options if you just apply your talents.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are in a situation where it's very toxic or there's, there's many things that can happen, get help.
Yeah.
Get help so you could not be in that situation alone.
Yeah.
There's free resources. There's resources at companies. There's resources that people have for mental health. Get as neutral as you can so you can start making a plan to move forward, because you don't have to be stuck in something that really just dims your light and, can sometimes, I remember many times in my career with major mental health issues.
Yeah.
The minute I quit my job, I was totally fine.
Yeah. Well, I like what you said regarding like starting a little side thing too, because one of my friends from, I think it was grammar school, if she ends up watching this, her name's Eva. I don't know what she was doing career-wise before this, but she started running like a little Pinterest shop, Artfully Eva Designs, and she does a lot of my like little knickknacks and stuff in real estate, but she started this Pinterest shop that ended up starting to blow up
Amazing.
and doing all these little things and going to these shows and having a spot at different department stores. And I'm like, it's crazy what one little thing that was a hobby that she really liked could turn into.
Absolutely.
And that might not be everyone's, path.
Right.
But at the same time, that was something that she's like, look, if I have to do whatever she was doing during the day and have this on the side, who knows?
And even if your day gig is breaking you down, which it can, I look at my brother, right? My brother is an amazing drummer. I don't even know if you know that.
I didn't know.
And he has gigs on the side. My dad did the same thing, right? My dad was an engineer.
He does that on the side?
He does. I'll have to send you some of his videos. He's amazing. He's very, very good. My dad's a musician, right? My grandfather was.
Call him and ask him to drum for me.
You should. He will absolutely drum. He'll love it. He'll be so excited.
Wait, give me a second.
Right. But I mean, that's the thing. Like, that's key. It's not ever going to be his full-time thing. He said, we're trying to get signed. Yeah, he's very good, but he's not trying to get signed. And he has this on the side, and it keeps him
going
balanced, and it keeps him positive, and it keeps him in something that he enjoys and something that he loves. And so your career doesn't have to just be what pays your bills. It can be everything that you're doing that you consider your work time.
Yeah. Sounds like me with fantasy football, but I know that fantasy football will never lead me to.
No, but it's a passion. Oliver doesn't know that. Wait till he finds that out.
He's into fantasy football.
Obsessed. So, and if you offer to get him into another league, I'm coming to find you.
Well, I was going to ask him to get me into a league.
Oh, for sure.
He
can definitely.
I'm at 3 and I want to get into 5.
Then I'll hook that up after. Oh, tonight at dinner.
This was already worth the flight. Yeah. This was already worth the flight.
I did not know this about you.
Oh, yeah. I am like...
There's going to be a lot of text messages.
Dude, podcasts, like, if you think I listen to this podcast, it's like...
You're into the fantasy.
Oh, hell yeah.
See? And that's the other thing, too. Like, have your passions outside of your career.
Well, that, and it's me telling all the straight males that the gay guy beat them. And that's just like, there's nothing.
Love that.
Like, I have like a little rainbow flag as my icon.
I love that.
I'm like, you bitches.
Like, see, we can do this.
I was like, I might not be able to play the sport, but I know how to win.
That's beautiful. Well, you have another one, so don't worry. We'll get that hooked up.
Amazing.
So our time is almost up, which is so.
Can you believe it?
I told you it was going to go fast.
It did go fast.
It's a little too fast.
Yeah.
So I think the last thing that we always like to end with is, what do both of us, and I'm going to start with you, what do we want in the future when it comes to people and their careers, right? What is it that we want to see out there when it comes to career? If you could have a wish, I can start.
For my career?
For just the general population.
You start.
Yeah, so you could do both. I don't know exactly where my careers have so many things going on right now, so you can answer that for yourself. But when I think of the future, I think of myself, right? I can only put myself in the shoes of everybody else. And I just remember feeling like I had to do all these things. I felt like I had to check this box. I felt like I had to get the day job and I had to have health insurance. I had to do I never gave myself the grace or the openness to even explore. And I think my wish for the collective and for people in the future is that they allow themselves time and space in whatever way they can to really figure out the gifts that they have and how they can utilize that to serve the world and make money doing it. That's my hope.
That's kind of where I was going to go with that. Yeah, I think for me...
I'm not surprised.
Well, I think I could pivot that a little bit and say, like, I think my hope would be that individuals that are looking to really go into a career that works for them, that they have the backing from and support from either whoever their supported backbone is, whether it's their parents, a sibling, a cousin, whoever, that they have that support to pursue that passion. Because I think that whole idea of fear, and half the time that people don't actually like push themselves off the ledges because there's no one to push them.
Right.
Like there's no one to say, do it, you got this. They don't have that support system. So on top of what you said,
I love that.
I would also hope that individuals will have that person to say, just do it. Like Sam, my best friend that moved down here with me, was a huge part of that. She was like, "You're gonna kick ass. Like anything you do, you're gonna be successful."
She was your cheerleading
Yeah,
coach.
yeah,
And I think we could even take that a step further and say, we can be that for other people,
yeah.
right? If somebody comes to you and says, I'm going to do this, Matt, and you think it's the craziest damn thing you've ever heard, you should just be like, you know what? Go for it.
And I think that's what from a personal level, that's what I want. Like me in the future, I want to have my mentorship program. I want to coach agents. I want to help them get to that next step.
You want to be that cheering
Right.
squad and tactically to be like, this is exactly what you need to do to get to where you're going.
Yeah, like you might be doing this job and you might want to get into real estate full time or make a pivot from one career to the next. This is how you obtain that and be that support system.
And you're living it. And I love watching you live it and see how you grow. And like I said, when we started this off, you know, I've seen a lot of people in sales. I've seen a lot of people in our industry.
Yeah.
And I'm so grateful for your friendship and for your partnership. And I can't wait to watch you grow in this business. And you're just going to kick ass and take names. And see where the future heads for you. You know, you never know.
Yeah. And I mean, I couldn't do that without support from my support system, people like you and Oliver. And that's been huge because it wouldn't happen without that.
Right.
So I can't emphasize enough having that support system.
Yeah. And doing it for yourself and doing it for others, which is so much of what the space between is, right? It's that connection. It's those connections that
intermingling between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you for being here.
Of course.
Oh, this was so much fun.
Yeah, I cannot wait to get this fantasy football.
I know. Okay, you're like one track mind. You see this typical salesperson? He's like, I got to go close this deal.
No, because I'm like, I'm going to win this league and the other ones now. I'm like,
racking up money in his head. Well, thank you, Matt, for being here.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
And to all the listeners, thank you so much for joining us today. And we'll see you again soon in the space between. Thank you so much for joining us in the space between. We hope this conversation sparked connection for you. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who will find value. And make sure to tune into our next episode as we continue the journey into the core themes of our lives. We'll see you again in the space between.